One thing I've noticed as a pastor when people come and talk to me is that they tell me that they've been through a lot of really difficult things. And often people say, well, what I've gone through isn't as hard as what other people have gone through. It's not like I've lived through war or terrorism or something huge, big abuse or anything like that. But everybody goes through real major challenges, and some of them are really big. And often, what we try to do is downplay those challenges and say, well, it's not that bad. I'm not starving or anything like that. One thing that I've learned from the religion of Buddhism, as I've studied the world's religions, is that Buddhism tells us that suffering is part of being human. We're not, as human beings, we're not meant to only be happy all the time. We're not going to be happy all the time. So some things are going to create in us a sense of anger or frustration or sadness or grief or anxiety, fear, and we have the whole gamut of human emotions. So with knowledge of that, what I'd like to encourage people to do is to develop a practice of having compassion for themselves. We're told in the Bible by Jesus that it's important to love God with all we've got and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And we often forget that self part, and we often think that we should love God and our neighbors, but we don't think we should have compassion for ourselves. And I think that loving self has much more to do with a deep compassion than just saying that loving self is taking time for fun, shopping or getting a massage or seeing a friend or things like that, which all of that is very important. But I think that this goes much deeper into developing compassion for ourselves when we have those difficult emotions and when we go through those difficult times. I mean, imagine that we see a child and they fall down and they hit their head really hard. We would pick up that child and hold them while they were crying and tell them, I know it hurts and that's really tough, and I'm so sorry that happened to you and things like that. And we would show compassion for that child, hopefully anyway. And then when the child stopped crying, we would maybe redirect that child to play and have a good rest of the day. But often what we do with ourselves is we repress those difficult emotions and we don't have compassion for ourselves, and then we don't deal with them. And that's kind of like repressing emotions is kind of like pushing a beach ball down in water, where you can hold it under for so long and then it's going to just come back up, probably in another place, and something that's a little bit less controlled and a little bit less expected. So that happens when we have difficult emotions and we work hard to repress them. They stay there and they just come back up, often in an inappropriate place. And so you get the person who's really stressed out because of work, and then they go home and they yell at their spouse, or somebody who's having difficulty with their health, and then they take out their anger and frustration on their kids. So it comes out in another way. Even addictions. The addict is somebody who has a good instinct, an instinct to try to feel better, an instinct to try to make the pain go away and feel less anger or less fear or less grief, and try to feel good, to try to feel some peace or even bliss, even joy. But the problem with addictions is, of course, we know that doesn't work because it takes more and more of whatever that substance or that behavior is to make those negative emotions go away. And then the negative emotions never really go away. They don't get dealt with. They just get masked. And then eventually they're going to come out and they're going to be problematic, which leads to a difficult life with fractured relationships and all kinds of problems. So in order to try to develop a pattern of compassion for the self, it helps to, when there's a difficult emotion arising, it helps to recognize it in the first place and just first sit with that emotion or a negative memory or something painful, and to first feel where it is in your body. So does it feel like a rock in your stomach? Does it feel like a tightening in your heart area? Does it feel like a vice grip around your head? And recognize, what does it feel like physically? And then what's going on? How can I name it emotionally? What is happening? Does this feel like loneliness? Am I just tired? Does it feel like being hurt? Does it remind me of when I was hurt when I was younger? Am I angry? Am I afraid? Just name the emotion. And then sit with it and accept it, just like you would if a child was crying. Just, it's the way it is. The child is hurt. And the same is when we feel that ourselves. It's the way it is. I have this emotion. Just accept that it's happening instead of running off to do something to shove it down through a substance, alcohol, drugs, food, another person, something to make me feel better. No, take full responsibility for it. And instead of running off in order to mask it, just accept it and allow it. It can be whatever it is. Now, I know this takes courage. This takes a little bit of discipline to sit with that. Just remember that that negative feeling won't last forever. In fact, it won't last for long if you just allow it. It will just be whatever it is. And if we sit with it, the next thing we can do is we can breathe into it. So when we take a breath in, we allow it, we accept it. We can even give ourselves love and compassion. And when we take a breath out, we can let it dissipate into the world, meaning move throughout our whole body and then release into the world. This is very different than repressing it and shoving it down, telling it to shut up and go away. With every breath, breathe in allowance, acceptance, compassion, and love. With every breath out, let it go slowly, release it. Don't make it smaller, make it bigger, and release it out through your body, through your heart, through your soul. Surrender it to the whole world. If you do that and sit with it and breathe for 5 to 10 minutes, just thinking about this emotion and having compassion, it's like holding yourself as a crying child. Just let it be what it is. The emotion itself will not kill you. Rather, if we repress it and shove it down, that's what's behind people beating each other up on the playground, violence, spousal abuse, addiction, all kinds of negative behavior that's really destructive and harmful. Projecting our rage onto our neighbors and strangers and getting defensive and all kinds of things. We don't want to go that route. Instead, accept your own feelings. It's just part of being human. We have the rainbow of human emotions. We have all kinds of emotions given to us. And if we can just accept them, allow them, and have compassion for them, they will naturally go, they will run their course. And whether it's grief or anger or fear, let it run its course through your body, your mind, and allow it out into the world. Surrender it, let it go. After 10 minutes, you'll find it's really run its course because you haven't tried to stop it. When you meet yourself with love, when you meet yourself with compassion for what you're going through, hey, we go through hard things. We deserve some compassion and some grace and some kindness. When you meet yourself with that kind of acceptance and love, it doesn't take long at all to get into a place where you're feeling better. Like that child who's being held, who's crying, they don't need to be held forever. Just 5, 10 max minutes, and then okay, they've had their time when they've cried or had a tantrum, and now they can just get about their day having fun with the day. So I hope this helps you. If these videos do help, please like and subscribe and share these videos. And thank you for your time. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.